Celebrate good times. Come on. It's Coach Joe's 30th birthday.
That's right.
Hey, we
On
made
Saturday.
it. We made it to the
The
big
day after
3-0.
Marco's birthday. What, are you going to be 33?
Yeah, I'll be 33, man.
You're almost in that Masters division.
Yeah, we'll see. I might do a qualifier or two within the upcoming year just to see where I'm at before I commit to the Masters category. Because,
There you go.
yeah, man, Coach Marco's feeling pretty good. It's feeling pretty
Coach
solid.
Marco's been working out in silence in the dark at 4 a.m. every day.
Yeah, working my way. The only problem is it's not at you can only reach so much intensity at that time. But I'm working and I'm pushing it. Feeling pretty solid. I just think in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't let little Trey start catching up to me, man. I can't.
Little Trey? No, he's time cap Trey. He got time cap yesterday.
TB. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Right now, a voluptuous one viewer, MacMart, HBD.
Let me know how MacMart, let me know how my audio sounds compared to previous weeks.
This is great.
Different setup here. It's better.
We'll have to make a live viewer award this year for the holiday party. MacMart's right now is at the top. It's Joe's and Coach Marco's birthday weekends, but we got some fun stuff here. Coach Joe's gonna commit his time to shoot the shit with me, talk some CrossFit science with metabolic conditioning, and then we got a fun blind rankings with a birthday theme today. So after this, Coach Joe's gonna take off to the Poconos, kick those feet up.
Yeah, relax. You know,
relax.
The cabin I found out that Nora found on Airbnb has an outdoor cold plunge and sauna.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. You would.
Yeah.
You need to start cold. When was the last time you cold plunged?
Last time I cold plunged, probably like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to Sweat House, and then I canceled my membership there because I wasn't like paying anymore.
Yeah.
But I got to clean out. Now that it's getting cold, I could start filling up my tub and let it get cool at night.
Let it get icy overnight.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, man, the cooler experience was a great investment, and I had a great deal, but it's been clutch over this past year with getting in. But what I started to do was I started to create a template of cold plunging, like one on, one off, one on,
like
one off, two off, because of the metabolic adaptation or the stimulus, right? I want to try. I don't want my brain to be dependent on it, or my body. And I've noticed a difference. I mean, yeah, like if I could do it every day and get that, dopamine effect, but I also don't want to rely on that to have my energy. Kind of like caffeine in the morning. I also made years ago, I said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wake up and drink water and go coach or go move or whatever I'm going to do, and not drink coffee first thing in the morning and have to rely on, caffeine or substance or a hormonal effect to wake me up. I just wanted to be as natural as I can get it. So I've been feeling pretty good doing that. Coach Kevin Falcone is going to do a ha 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 ha. Kev, you can stop by 344 Cathmere anytime, dude, and hop in the plunge. I actually just refilled it, got the filter reset today, did the lawn. It's a good.
You got the setup, dude.
Yeah. So, hold on, let me get the kitty cat out of the front room here. Happy birthday. Hey.
So is it Kev or Ken who's the MacMart viewer? You have to.
I have a feeling.
Put that in the comments.
I have a feeling it's Ken because, or Jackie. I mean, could it be Jackie? I mean, Jackie's working.
One of those three.
Dude.
That's the MacMart brain trust.
Ken's hiding behind the MacMart YouTube.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, we got a good show today. We're gonna start off. I've been doing this on my personal live show and this last week, and just been talking about flatulence a lot. And I just want to put it to an end. All right. Listen, I will always forever enjoy farting unless I'm getting crop dusted and it's gross and all that stuff. But just the concept of flatulence, gotta love it. However, when we talked about our topic last week and just putting it to rest, one thing I wanted to mention was how, CrossFit is basically the anti-flatulence system. And what I made an analogy to, what I talked about on Monday, was one of Greg's values, right? When we talk about like creating a value, like we have our values for MFP, right? Movement, family, purpose. And Greg's value for the CrossFit brand, what he said on a podcast the other week was he wanted to create an ecosystem, because CrossFit is, again, this big bubble of all these different modalities. So for Greg and for CrossFit as a brand to grow and develop, it was about actually being humble and asking for those who are well versed in their specialties, right? You have the specialties of weightlifting, powerlifting, strongman, athletic communities. We have the running clubs, the jump rope communities. We have the gymnastic, communities. And how do we, the nutrition communities, all these ended up becoming this one big bubble. And back in the day, for the OGs of CrossFit, there used to be all these different seminars you can go to. You can go to CrossFit Gymnastics, you can do a CrossFit Weightlifting, you can do a CrossFit Endurance seminar, and you would get, a learning experience about that specific modality. And what CrossFit did is it created this huge ecosystem, and Greg was extremely selfless in a way where he risked a lot of, let's just say, financial opportunities. For example, like branding his own equipment or branding his own clothing line or style of whatever. And he wanted to bring in everything. For example, like Rogue Fitness, the powerhouse of all fitness equipment, originated from CrossFit and the CrossFit Games, right? And how that's grown. And Greg never wanted to create his own equipment line. He wanted to create an ecosystem for Rogue, and so that could filter in. And you have like the Kelly Starretts, with the supple leopard. Like Kelly Starrett started the CrossFit mobility, and now he's off creating his own ecosystem. So it just became a branch out to a thing, to another thing, to another thing, to another thing. I just found that to be super powerful, especially as CrossFit's kind of redeveloping his identity. Now, with that being said, I said with Greg, has a lot of times a very demanding or arrogant type of character to him. But again, he kind of has to, like we said with the fart sniffers of the fitness strength conditioning communities, like they create a method, but he fart sniffs in a way that's like, hey, I want everyone to fart and sniff together. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, you gotta have that kind of personality to like start something. Like starting something is, you just gotta know you're gonna take so much shit when you're the first one to do something. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like the quote I have written down. Kind of, we can get into it a little bit more with that. It'll be a nice transition into that before you get to this clip.
So I found this clip. Now this was a highlight moment when Greg went on 60 Minutes. I guess, is that the show, 60 Minutes?
Yeah, I didn't know he was on that.
This was and this is quite direct. So if you're somebody that's, just listen.
Thing up till now been wrong in the fitness industry?
Yes.
I have heard you say that CrossFit prepares athletes for, quote, the unknown and the unforeseen. It sounds like you're getting ready to go to war.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, for getting ready for war, getting ready for earthquake, getting ready for mugging, getting ready for the horrible news that you have leukemia. What awaits us all is challenge, that's for sure.
You'd have a 75-year-old doing deadlifts?
Uh-huh, yeah. To say no is to say that if you drop your pen on the ground, you're not going to pick it up. It's a deadlift. It's picking something off the ground. It does not require a physician's okay. If your physician doesn't think you should deadlift, you need to get a new doctor is what you need.
You know, you didn't invent weightlifting.
Nope.
You didn't invent calisthenics.
Nope.
You didn't invent gymnastics.
Nope.
So what'd you do?
I invented that doing lateral raises and curls while eating pretzels is dumb.
To that person who's sitting in their living room saying, this all sounds interesting, but I've heard things and I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, then stay in your chair where you're sure to get hurt, and you'll become one of the 300,000 people that will die next year from sitting in their chair doing nothing.
Is everything...
It's like, this hits so many parts of this whole topic we're talking about, right? You know, and I'm dumbfounded by the concept that people really think CrossFit gets them hurt compared to just anything in general, but that's a whole nother topic for
we could do a whole podcast on like how that came to be. But I do think that, again, my quote is going to be a helpful thing to talk about, kind of give a little insight into the mindset of why people like who speak against CrossFit feel that way. I keep hyping this up.
Yeah, dope. 5 a.m. Squat Club. Good morning. What's up, man? Love it. Yeah, and so that whole concept of creating the ecosystem, right? You said, I didn't invent any of this, right? Yeah. So, in essence, what I'm doing, my value is to, one, again, he's contrarian, you can say, but in a way where it's so, when we talk about metabolic conditioning, it's so definitive in the way he breaks it down and the way we apply these methods and integrating all these other modalities. It was just fascinating. And, you know, for somebody to have that type of leadership in the way that he did it was really valuable. Now, again, you know, I say free Glassman, and there's a lot of things that, you know, he got thrown under the bus for. And again, I think it was actually good that, you know, things evolved and they are where they are now. But with that being said, we still need to find, like, you know, what's that identity for CrossFit as we continue to evolve. So anyway, wanted to share that. Thought that was great. And another part of it, too, is, you know, we talked about the whole standard is the standard concept, right? And Greg, well, we could say Greg, or just in general, with the science of what creating standards to our movements are, again, it was just, you didn't see that in fitness at all. And as functional fitness, quote unquote, has grown to branch out into these other, you know, pseudo types of functional fitness, metabolic places, those standards are lacking.
Yeah, you still don't see it. You still only see it in one space, and that's like the established CrossFit space.
And so I sent this to you, right? Because this came out, and this is kind of like the pro and con that we talked about last week with the whole idea of, you know, CrossFit addiction, right? Are we addicted to this idea of, like, I just show up to burn calories, right? What my point here is going to be with the WOD Science post is, by creating a greater range of motion, which is a component of our fitness, flexibility, mobility, we are extending our ability, one, to increase our power output and work capacity, which is part of metabolic conditioning, which we'll talk about. But for those who need a little bit more simplified, effective understanding, that the more range you move throughout your repetitions, the more work, meaning the more calories, the more heat, you know, all those things, the metabolic biochemistry effects that are happening in your body are greater.
Yeah.
So looking at this post, you know, you want to burn more calories and all that. If you look on WOD Science, it's basically confirming through data, right? No rep, which we see a lot, right? Versus a full rep. Again, you can translate this to the potential and kinetic energy that is happening from the movement itself, and you can actually measure that. And that was a big component of what we wanted to learn in CrossFit, right? Measurable, observable, repeatable concepts. So not only do I increase my ability to do more work, I can actually measure my output so that if I do 150 wall balls with that standard, Karen, right? And then I do that, and my time is whatever. I have that measurement of power that I did, and the next time I did it, I increased my time by a minute. I know, 1, my ability to do work is greater. 2, I'm more fit, right? Just in general. So, dude, 5 a.m. Squad Club's giving us some love. I love that we're getting a new friend here because I follow 5 a.m. Squad Club. He's on some of the podcasts that I listen to. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah, we're making it, Joe.
We're making it, man. Yeah, I mean, look, dude, like, there's a reason standards exist, and it's not just a random decision. Like, there's an intention behind everything. Like, there's an intention behind everything we do. When we tell you to get below parallel, when we tell you to fully lock out every rep, like, it's not like an arbitrary standard that is made up. There's a reason behind it, and there's a lot of significance to following that standard. And if you do, like, you're gonna get a lot better. And if you don't, you're not. That's the truth. Are you going with the deadlift video?
Yeah, well, talking about standards. Well, it's funny because Corey just posted this on our members group, and he goes, "Team deadlifting." By the way, shout out to Corey. You're a fucking stud.
By the way, I was like, "Is that Corey?" I was like,
"Yeah, this is Corey." Remember, he was a power lifter before this.
Powerlifting Corey, man.
Corey. Well, again, where did the idea of team deadlifting come from? Well, know your CrossFit history, guys. I would like to say it came from CrossFit. Dude.
Man, I really get your grip.
Look at that.
Good old days.
3 people on a fat bar.
Oh my god.
I remember doing regionals back in the day with teams and doing team deadlifting. I mean, I wouldn't say it was my favorite thing to do. Just because you have the...
You got to be so in sync with
you got to be in sync, and you have the leverage from different heights of different people on your team. But I do value those days. Those were great days, man. Shout out to Corey, team deadlifting, y'all. Will you see it at the Just Show Up Cup? Oh, shit.
Probably not.
Will we do a Just Show Up Cup team deadlift workout? I don't know. Corey, I'm getting some ideas, brother. I'm getting some ideas. Those were the glory days, man, back in the day. See, this guy knows. Or gal. I don't know. Love it. Yeah, so just a quick teaser before we get into our topic of metabolic conditioning. I teased on my solo pod earlier this week some of the workouts. I'll just give you guys the names of the workouts. And then I think, Joe, we should shoot the shit next week for our topic and just break down the workouts, get everybody hyped. First workout, I'll just give you the theme and you guys can kind of start to think a little bit deeper. First workout's called Dancing on My Own. Theme is the intervals, which we're already kind of developing on Mondays with the program. So I go, you go, dancing on your own, but you get to watch your partner a little bit. It's like that. It's like you're at the first dance, you're checking him out, you want to ask him out on a date, you want to make the move. You know what I'm saying? Second workout, Clust and Lust. Now, you had your first dates. Things are getting a little steamy. You want to do the sexy stuff. You're working hard. It gets lustful. It gets fun. You get the honeymoon phases. And then the third workout's called Welcome to Heartbreak Ridge. Because now when you start getting deep into the relationship, you start moving in and shit. You know a little bit more about each other. You start having your arguments. You got to communicate. You got to have strategy. You might have a few breakups here and there. You might come back to them.
Together.
You got to work together. The fourth workout, creme of the cup. Okay. Now you're ready to put the ring on the finger. Now it's time. You made it. This is the essence of why you have the relationship. This is the essence of CrossFit. So now we're really getting deep into the weeds of our workouts here, right? True CrossFit methodology, true metabolic conditioning. And then finally, the fifth workout's called Endless Reflections, where it's just to infinity and beyond, baby. You made the commitment. You're married. Shit. Ain't no going back. Well, I guess you can decide during the workout if you want to break it apart because it's long.
Yeah, you guys have that choice.
But we get aerobic. So We will be hitting all of the domains, all of the modalities, all of the components of fitness during Just Show Up Cup. There won't be any team deadlifting, but something to maybe play around with down the road. Who knows? Damn, I like this 5 amp. Look at this. This is cool. I gotta make this smaller. Love it. Well, welcome, my friend. All right. Love it. Let's get started, team. Okay. We're gonna do our breath work, take 3 breaths, get organized, talk about our topic. I'm ready to hear this Joe quote that's gonna relate. So, all right, birthday boy, 3 birthday breaths. Here we go. Sit up tall. Take a moment, ground your feet. Be present. Just acknowledge we got a great weekend ahead of us. Another year under the sun. Over the moon, however that goes. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Hold your breath. And exhale. Big breath. Hold. Exhale. Final breath into the nose. Fill the belly up. Hold it for 3, 2, and exhale. Should have made you hold for 30 seconds for your birthday, dude.
I could have just done 30 breaths.
I usually get at least one good 30-second breath hold a day.
Yeah.
Working on
Keeps
it.
the doctor away, man.
All right, man. Hit us with a quote.
You've seen the movie Moneyball, right?
Dude, I actually watched that not too long ago.
So
Great freaking movie.
One of my favorite movies.
Well, I was getting into it because of the Phillies season building up, but I don't want to talk Phillies right now.
Well, you remember the scene then when the president of the Red Sox is like, he's with Billy and he's trying to like
tries to scoot him in.
He's trying to court him a little bit, and he's just like talking about how like he's the first one to like try new things, and there's that quote where he says, "I know you've taken it in the teeth out there, but the first guy through the wall, he always gets bloody, always. It's a threat of not just the way of doing business, but in their minds, it's threatening the game. What's really threatening is their livelihoods. It's threatening their jobs. It's threatening the way that they do things. And every time that happens, whether it's the government or a way of doing business or whatever it is, the people who are holding the reins have their hands on the switch and go batshit crazy." So, I've always love that movie, dude, so much. I love this scene. Just like the idea of like the first one to do anything, like the first one to try something, the first one to try something that like nobody's ever like had it in them to do before. Like they're always going to get so much shit. Like there's going to be so much resistance. And, when you mentioned before, like we could do a whole podcast on why that like stereotype came up, like, oh, you'll get hurt doing CrossFit. Like it's people who have been doing things for so long feel threatened, and they feel like the first one to try something new, it's like it's a threat to like not just the way that they do things, but just the way that they see the world, the way that they see fitness. And it takes a lot of courage to be the first one to really do something. And I love and it takes a lot of courage to be different. And the first one who is, like, I think it's important to remember, always is gonna you're always gonna get beat up a little bit, and that's a good thing.
How does anything new evolve? Or how does anything evolve if you don't try something new, right?
Yeah.
That's always been part of our, podcast topics and evolution and change.
But there's this paradox is that people, like, you need to evolve and you need to grow, but people get mad about it. People can hate it because they have this like insecurity towards it.
It's more fear, right? It's hard. We fear that. And coming back to Greg Glassman, right? I mean, it was less for him fear versus like a deeper understanding of how this was going to take off, right? That's the whole spiritual component to Greg, where he went with what he felt that was authentic, right? I mean, when you hear him talking that 60 minutes, right, that's authentic.
Yeah.
That's just who he is and how he is, and that's how he grew CrossFit from where it was to where it is. And that's why I feel like the deeper meaning of like why it became so successful, because like that's just part of his soul contract, man, just to bring something like this into the collective consciousness. And it all starts with us just trying something new, like even for us with the podcast, right? And also talking about something new was this whole idea, getting to our topic today, is metabolic conditioning. It was probably something that may have been out there, but I think what this whole, when you guys hear Metcons, right? We see it on the whiteboard all the time. It's like, we're doing a Metcon today, or, whatever. And you see it and it's like, well, what does that really mean? And I think it gets thrown out there from who I listen to and what I see and what we learn and how we bring it about. I feel like it gets a little fluffy, right?
Yeah,
with
for sure.
What does it actually mean and what's the true definition of metabolic conditioning, and also how can we define it in our own way that's new and unique and allows us to kind of grow upon it, because it's so diverse. We can really take this in a whole different avenue if we want to. So let's get started. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about before I get I'm going to define it last. And again, I'm going to define it in my own way, not the way maybe CrossFit does. But when we learn the CrossFit methodology, we have that pyramid. And at the base of the pyramid, you have nutrition. And above that, second most important would be developing our ability to do work, metabolic conditioning. And CrossFit defines the idea of doing work as work capacity across broad time and modal domains. This is part of our fitness. This is how we become as fit as we possibly can. And so what does work capacity across broad time and modal domains even mean? So the example I say is, I bring about here is the workout Helen. And you saw Greg in that in that video, right? He had the shirt with all the names, right? So he has these workouts that are useful for testing and measuring our fitness. And Helen's one of them. Helen is a workout that is 3 rounds for time. You're going to run 400 meters, do 21 kettlebell swings, 12 pull-ups. Do it as fast as you can. So first, the idea of work capacity. Your ability to complete all of that. To complete 400 meters. To complete 21 swings, 12 pull-ups within, a period of time. The idea with work capacity as well is the standard of the movement, which we'll talk a little bit more down in this podcast. But the standard of the movement, meaning obviously running is just point A to point B. But with a swing, like we talked about when it comes to measuring our force and our output, right? The swing from the hip all the way to overhead, not to eye height. So we're getting that more extra range of motion to increase our work capacity. Yep. And then the pull up from a dead hang, chin over the bar. Ideally, it would be some variation of kipping, because if I do kipping, I have the ability to do the work faster, potentially more efficiently, meaning across broad time, right? So we have the metric of time. Now, this workout, let's just say it takes roughly around 12 to 15 minutes for an average show, okay? We're not set to that time, but that's a time component that we measure it, so completing it. And then we have a very important part, work capacity across broad time, and then modal domains. So those are the different components of the workout. So we have the domain of running. We have a domain of weightlifting with a kettlebell, resistance, external load. And then we have a domain of a bodyweight gymnastics style of movement. So when I incorporate all those in that fashion, I am creating the stimulus of metabolic conditioning. So the ability to perform work, reps to a standard, within a stimulus of time across multiple modalities. So that still doesn't really give a clear definition to metabolic conditioning, which we'll break down, but that gives you an idea of the uniqueness that CrossFit brings to defining it.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
One thing I just wanted to throw into it, I think also you might want to get into this later on, but not just doing those movements to standard, but doing them efficiently, because that's a part of fitness too.
Right.
It's like the more, can you do something when you're fresh? Great. But like, can you still do that efficiently, like under fatigue is something that is really important in the CrossFit methodology, that when someone is spending like their first set of time doing just straight up monostructural work, and then they're, they don't have anything that's getting them more fatigued. So, it forces you to be more strict with your movement, be more strict with your efficiency. So that's another, we could dive into that a little bit too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because how you're getting more fit is, one, your efficiency, the mechanics of the movement improves. You might do the workout with a 35-pound kettlebell, and then down the road you do it with a 53-pound kettlebell, and then you do the workout 1 minute faster than when you did previously. So your fitness is improving. But again, when it comes to metabolic conditioning, we're just defining this workout as a way to achieve metabolic conditioning. Now, I want to go into one thing just to think about too, which we do get caught up with a lot in CrossFit, is like, I just saw on the main site, they just posted like a 5-round version of that workout versus 3, which is great. I think that's fine. But a lot of us get sucked into that, like, oh, that's a little sexier, right? Doing 5 rounds versus 3. But do we get that stimulus of, again, have you done 3 rounds as hard as you possibly can? If I did 5, I might pace it a little bit. Some people might even have to pace 3 rounds, But it's like, if I do 5 rounds, am I really going to push that same pace? And, we could argue that fitness might be lost. We're not saying metabolic conditioning isn't achieved, but fitness. So again, just kind of food for thought with that. So I would just say like a conditioning misunderstanding. And I think a lot of it, I say this too, so I could say I'm guilty as charged, but like, we're going to do metabolic conditioning today, and people might just think that's just the cardio. And so, meaning like your breathing, right? Your respiratory rate increases, heart rate. And that's just a component of fitness. Like your cardiovascular output is just a component, but it's not metabolic conditioning. And it's not just doing a stair climber or going for a run or doing rowing intervals or biking intervals where it's just monostructural. I wrote here, like when people do traditional exercise templates, at whatever XY gym, they do their weightlifting, and then I do my stair climber for an hour or whatever. And they think that's their conditioning to an extent. Yeah. Yes. But metabolic conditioning requires, to be truly conditioned and metabolically conditioned, you have to have multiple components of your fitness. So it's not just the cardiorespiratory. We're doing stamina, strength, power, speed, agility, balance, coordination, accuracy, all those things that are going to play effect into that.
I think too, what's a good example of that is we have a member at MFP, Chris Pollard, who before joining
good
MFP,
example.
He's an awesome runner. Like he's ultra marathons, huge distance runner. And I remember in his first few months, I coached a lot of his classes just because he usually would come in the evening when I was coaching, and he was saying like he was so like curious and interested because he was like, yeah, like I could go for a 30-mile run and like I'm barely sweating, but like I'm burnt. Obviously his body is burning so many calories, like he's working, but he's like, I'm here and we do this like 12-minute piece and I'm like drenched, I'm exhausted. But like that is an example of combining all these elements. It's a 12-minute clock, whether it be intervals or whatever the flow is for that day. But that had him working in ways that like combining those elements, speed, power, strength, agility, that he'd never done before, just by like boom, 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 running for 3 hours or whatever the case may be. So I remember that conversation with Chris, and it stands out to me just over years, and seeing him develop as an athlete too over the last few years.
I love that you brought that up, because we see that a lot with people that come in from different modalities. They just have done one of those, right? And so like it's kind of a cool wake up call when you get to experience CrossFit. And I think we get stuck into defining metabolic conditioning by just correlating factors, right? So we have the physiological responses, which is very, very deep. You know, you could talk about fucking sodium, potassium pump and the muscle fiber, different muscle fiber activations and the transitioning from utilizing ATP, mitochondrial phosphagen systems, blah, 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 blah. Gobbly, gobbly, gooky, blah, 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 blah. Sounds like Jack. And if you want a little bit of reference, you guys can read this article where it has a little bit more in depth of some of those we call bioenergetics. Another thing like correlating factors, which the article talks about, right? We have those factors that play a role into defining metabolic conditioning. We have other things, for example, like VO2 max. So an example of understanding VO2 max is being able to push your maximal output of work without oxygen, basically, and how long you can sustain that for at a high rate. So an example that might develop your VO2 max would be like our Wednesday workout or a Wednesday style of workouts. For example, we did the 5 rounds of like burpee over the sandbag and sandbag cleans, right? Like you're really hitting that threshold early on and you're trying to maintain that threshold, even with movement efficiency, even with all those things. Like those movements will cause a greater effect of getting you towards that VO2 max. There you go. Talk about lactated Victor! Love it, man.
Loyal listener, man.
Dude, love it, Victor. We miss you, man. I know he's got a back thing or something, man, but let's get back in, dude. Scale it. Let's modify. Let's get that VO2 max going, baby. Victor loves VO2 shit.
Yeah, that's every day, man.
So again, these are just correlating factors, right? VO2, correlating factor to improving your metabolic conditioning. Your aerobic and anaerobic. So aerobic just means your ability to go long, right? Chris Pollard's. And your anaerobic athletes like Trey Blair. Like all he did was sprint, quick high power output, fast, short time domains. But when it comes to expanding that time domain, he starts to burn out, right? But
time cap Trey, he'll struggle on.
But he has he has components of fitness to build his metabolic. He has the strength, skill. But again, when it comes to developing metabolic conditioning as a whole, you need to have, again, more correlating factors. We talk about intervals. An example of an aerobic workout would be like our Saturdays right now, right? Like you experience. Like we're trying to maintain and sustain and endure a round per 5 to 6 minutes and maintaining that throughout that 40 minutes, right? Doesn't have to be going for a long zone 2 run or something like that. You can still achieve an aerobic base by doing, sustained time domain work, also with mixed modalities, right? The sandbag step up, the parallel shoot throughs. Intervals, right? We're doing capacity work. So this is just your ability to do more work in a short amount of time. So it's not necessarily VO2 because we're not hitting maximal intensity. So intervals go sub-max, but it expands your ability to do more of that work over a longer period of time. And that's a correlating factor to metabolic conditioning. An example of now talking about the metabolic pathways. So again, Joe, you talked about this in our newsletters a handful of times, right? Going super short, 0 to 60 seconds, phosphagen, right? Short, quick bursts. Victor's very phosphagen, right?
Coach Trey.
Super. Now, Coach Trey is also glycolytic, the next phase of that 3-minute mark to, let's just say, it can extend, but it says 60 seconds to 3 minutes, and then after that is oxidative. And there's a whole science of when you transition these phases, but these are our 3 pathways. These play a correlating factor to our metabolic conditioning. So, for example, Tuesday's workout. We do the EMOM in the beginning, the quick complex that takes 10, 15 seconds. Phosphagen heavy, because it's also quick burst, heavier loads. Then we transition into a glycolytic development within those intervals that we're doing, because we're again sustaining that, 3 to 10, 15, 12 minutes of work, as we're also using that as an interval tool, right, to increase our capacity. And then 3, we're doing it over a 40-minute time frame. So your ability to have this oxidative pathway to sustain this over that class time period also transfers. And on top of that, we're doing different modalities. We're weightlifting and doing monostructural on Tuesdays. We're not necessarily doing gymnastics, but we're getting multiple components. So again, this kind of sounds a little bit like Gobbly Gook right now. It should.
Yeah, but I think it's a good conversation to have too, because then it gives a little bit of insight into just like the why in terms of like how we do things and how you write programming. Like, the fact that on Tuesdays throughout the fall, like that complex takes like 10 seconds. It's not just like random. Like there's a reason behind everything. And I think that it's an important, like the Gobbly Gook conversation. Like, yeah, it could be a little bit, sticky, but it's important to just tie everything together, just understanding the intention behind like a very, very structured program and like why that matters.
Right. And you can also look at it's developing metabolic conditioning, and it's also developing components of fitness. And both of those kind of intertwine. So one thing I would think about is there a benefit to single modality conditioning? So you would think I just think about when, athletes are getting ready for their sports season and are doing a bunch of 110s and 300 shuttles and stuff like that. So it's just single modality. It's only running, sprinting. And is that developing their ability to be conditioned for their sport? Yes. Does it have a correlation to metabolic conditioning? Yes, because you're getting physiological factors. You're getting, you're doing some sort of intervals or VO2 max development. But an important part of metabolic conditioning is that it plays a component to your fitness. And as a whole, and just doing single modality conditioning, if I just row all the time after my workouts, or if I just do shuttles and all that, we're not expanding our potential to be fit and to be metabolically fit. So another component to think about, and again, I'm just thinking things that you guys can just be aware of, right, is, again, the standards.
Yeah.
Right? So when we integrate movements of weightlifting and gymnastics, for example, right, doing the full range of motion, going from the ground, going all the way to overhead and a lockout, going from, a stand to a full depth squat to a stand to a lockout to a bottom of your push-up to a lockout. All those are extremely important, like we said, to developing that, right? So again, all these are just things to think about, things to understand how metabolic conditioning, that term, is so complex.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that it's super easy just to, when you hear the word conditioning in general, like get single focused on it. Like just get single focused on like high heart rate, aerobic work. But when you try to paint a full picture of fitness and conditioning in general, you realize like there's so much variety to it. And then, the main idea with having this, like all these elements put together, is that you don't get used to anything. Like, like how if you're a great runner, you're running all the time, like eventually going on like a 20-mile run is not going to be like that big of a deal for your body in terms of the response you get from it. Like the human body just gets used to stuff, and you got to throw different things at it.
Mm. Well, yeah, I think that's really why metabolic conditioning and applying it to CrossFit specifically goes back to like your quote. It truly, when you break it down like this, it's never, this idea of conditioning has never been expanded ever in any.
Yeah.
It might have been implemented in ways that we weren't collectively aware of defining it, maybe with like people who trained like as decathletes, but even they were lacking components of fitness, right? And that's where CrossFit kind of brings it in.
Yeah, and like for the, going back to my quote, like for the certain single modality weightlifters who are like, oh, you shouldn't have like weightlifting included in high intensity workouts. Well, like, wait a second, isn't it an important element of fitness, like being able to sustain quality movement under fatigue, under different sorts of stimuli and weights? Like, why like, my question always is like, why is your idea that this should or shouldn't be, included in a higher intensity, like longer clock, higher rep scheme workout? Like, why? Because when you think about it, you have to combine so many different elements of fitness to actually do it right. It's super important,
I love it. I love it. Well, one other quick factor before we get to the fun stuff here. Just remember is nutrition. And we'll talk about this at I think this season. We'll dive deeper into some nutritional concepts, but nutrition plays a big role into the pathways that I talked about. Like the phosphagen doesn't require any necessarily source. It's all ATP.
Yeah.
Whereas glycolytic requires a lot more carbohydrates. That's why carbs in CrossFit are really important. Having carbohydrate fuel and sources to extend that glycolytic pathway to make you more efficient with your work that you do when you do CrossFit style Metcons, metabolic conditioning. And then when you transition to fat, when you do more aerobic work. And also just some other factors with metabolic conditioning are because physiological responses are so important to your ability to perform in metabolic conditioning. That's why like lifestyle, stress, hormonal changes, all those are going to play a role into your ability to have work capacity across broad time and modal domains. So it's just something, again, just to be aware of. Let's answer Victor's question here. No Goobly Gook. I'm curious how to balance pushing anti-glycolytic threshold via Metcon. Oh, man, I like it, Victor. Oh, shit. All right. Let's get this going. Via Metcon lactate flooding with mitochondria development via lower high rep intensity work like strong first acts. I'm assuming strong first, like the kettlebell. Isn't that a kettlebell company? Let me read this a few times, Victor. I got you, brother. Yeah. Anti-glycolytic threshold. Fuck, man, Victor, this is good.
I think a big part of it is just like understanding the stimulus of the workout, right? Like you mentioned, the way something is going to be written, there are going to be days when you have to tap into that like lactate flooding threshold, just like going all out for 60 seconds where everything's burning up. But I think having I'm
on the same page with you. I think the big thing is, which I'll define here with metabolic conditioning, it's the intertwining of all three pathways.
Yeah.
And so one of the best things that you can actually work on developing is having a high aerobic threshold. And that's where like Chris Hinshaw, like we talked about, like Greg Glassman creating an ecosystem. So when the CrossFit Games athletes were training for the games, Chris Hinshaw became a big factor as a coach into the athletic development throughout the season, with a lot of aerobic development, running, rowing, swimming, biking. And the higher your aerobic base, what he found was that you were able to understand. It's good because you want to have high aerobic, high VO2, and it's how do you find these sub-lactate threshold moments during your, Metcons that we do during your aerobic work or whatever sustainable work, and how do we find that pacing to sustain that? And without using any sort of metrics, I always found that like your breathing was a big thing, like nasal breathing pace, in nose, out nose pace. Are you in mouth, out mouth pace from the beginning, right? Yeah. And so most people need to feel out those paces, especially when starting CrossFit and having no background in metabolic conditioning. They need to know their gears. So knowing your gears from, 1, 2 nasal, 3, 4 in nose, out mouth, 5. That's that last round of Helen. You should be hitting gear 5. You know what I mean? And maybe most people start at gear 5 on round 1 when really they are not able to sustain that lactate threshold of gear 5 for rounds 2 and 3. Games athletes can, but it's, again,
To answer also, like my last thing on Victor's question too is like, it's also going to be an imperfect process. Like you got to play around with it. Like, it takes almost just guessing and checking to really learn how you respond to different things. Like, you could do a workout for a week and have one strategy of, knowing your gears, as you say, and you realize like, oh shit, like maybe I should have came out a little bit more conservatively, or that was too conservative of a start. So
right,
you have to just like, it takes time. Like it takes time, and it takes also a willingness to try new things and different approaches to workouts. And because if you do the same thing every time, you're always going to get the same result. But
another challenging part, because CrossFit, the beauty of it is because there's so many modalities. The barbell, snatch and clean jerk, gymnastics. You have a whole nother component before being efficient and thinking about metabolic conditioning and work capacity. You actually got to develop the mechanics and the skill.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the beauty of CrossFit. Before it's like mechanics, consistency, intensity. Come back to that. Before we even think about the conditioning output, do we have the mechanical output? And that's usually a big factor. I love it. Look at that. Joe. Getting some love, brother.
Science has no ends. It's I mean, look, I'll do workouts all the time where I'm like, oh man, I came out too hot, or I probably could have. Like, I'm always learning shit about myself as I'm going through. So it's a never-ending process, Victor.
All right, wrap up conditioning. Okay, here's my definition. So, metabolic conditioning is the development and refining of all of those 3 metabolic pathways: the short, medium, long. Not just one. I'm not just weightlifting, not just doing sprints, not just doing aerobic work. So refining all 3 that create an adaptation and resiliency, meaning your ability to be conditioned, to a variety of stimuluses within those pathways. So you can have a variety of ways to develop the phosphagen, the glycolytic, and the oxidative. A ton of ways, not just one ways to developing those. And again, refining all those at the same time. Again, being conditioned. In addition, it is the cross-sectional development of all 3 pathways simultaneously. So again, a bunch of gobbly gook.
Gobbly gook, baby. No, that's a good definition. I think it just shows how complicated it, like how involved, like metabolic conditioning, like
it's dense.
Defining it is going to take more than one sentence, and right. I do think that was a really good description of it, because it's not easy. It's not a simple thing to describe, which people often think it is. So, gobbly gook is necessary.
Hey, Lan, as our spiritual advice is, it's more about experiencing than speculating. All right. Let's get into the rankings, and then we'll get Joe off to the Poconos for a birthday weekend. All right. Quick commercial break. my guy. Hey. Oh, I didn't get the. Hold up, exit full screen. Fuck. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. All right, we're good. All right. We're talking birthday parties, Coach Joe. We want to know a little bit about you.
All right, this will be good.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do a top 5 ways to celebrate HBD. Happy birthday. Now, we'll just have some fun with it. I have 5 options. We'll get the honorable mentions. So I want to know all about Coach Joe's favorite birthday parties in his 30 years of living. So I'm sure there's got to be some fucking epic birthday parties. But I got 5 here that I want you to rank. And maybe if you have I have a feeling you have some sort of relationship to maybe at least 3 of these. Maybe all of them. So rank these 1 to 5. We got the classics. We got Chuck E. Cheese and the Dave & Buster's. I didn't put them separate because I guess they're in this whole same category of like, I don't know, like fucking buildings that you go and celebrate shit. There's pizza, there's stuff. I don't know. Anyway, put them in that same category. We got the pool parties. We got the arcades. We got the athletic activities, the bowling, the ice skating. And you just got your simple dimple backyard barbecue with the lawn games and, whatever you do in backyard barbecue.
So these are, because obviously for our birthdays, like I never had a pool party birthday because it's October, but is this just like ways to celebrate birthdays in general?
Yeah, ways to celebrate. I mean, you might have been to some pool party birthdays, you know what I mean?
I've been. So I do love a good pool party. I would say right now, as an adult, probably my favorite type of party is a blend between the pool party and backyard barbecue. So I can kind of put those 1 and 2, because I just love to like be at one place where I could sit around. Ideally with pool party, it implies like weather's good crowd, summertime. Backyard barbecue, same thing, right? Food's there, people are there. I get like overstimulated easily. So like a low key event is my kind of event. So those are my favorite. Like for me, the best event is just like, I don't know, keeping it low key. Because although I talk all the time, I'm actually a bit of an introvert, which some people don't really realize about me. Yeah, no, I'm a bit of an introvert, man. I'm a social introvert.
Cool.
So I'll go pool party, backyard barbecue 1 and 2. I was never a fan of the arcade birthday. I love video games and stuff, but I don't know, something about the arcade birthday. I don't know. I never was too into it. I'll probably put that at 5. And then 4, a good activity birthday is fun. Depends on the activity though. You never go wrong with bowling. I actually have done a couple birthdays at that Lucky Strike in the city in Philly. That's a fun birthday place. I think I've done a birthday, not there for myself, but like I had a party there for Nora like years ago when we lived in the city. But it keeps you engaged, man, because it's easy for me to like start drifting, or especially now I'll start getting tired at night. So I think an honorable mention though for me is the movie party. I used had a couple the movie at the movies.
That is. You're the cinema guy.
Yep. Yeah. I used to at the movies do a movie, and then like at the movies there would be like that little kind of conference room where you could do cake and stuff. The movie birthday party is also a good birthday party that often is forgotten, but I've had several. Maybe not several, but like 1 or 2.
Well, I've been privileged to be a part of at least Joe's movie dates that he bring us to. Oh man,
where are you going, man? What's your ranking?
All right,
you don't like the pool party?
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna start with. I'm gonna go 4 and 5. The only reason why I love pool parties and I love a simple dimple, backyard barbecue. We want to know.
I forget what. I'm not that good at bowling, so I don't know.
I think I've reached the hundreds. I don't know.
I
I
forget
feel
how
like that's too
exactly
high.
the scoring is like in terms of.
I got like I think a 120, right? Is that like
I'm not an avid bowler.
a basic bitch score? All right, so I went with these not because they're not necessarily my favorite because I like them, but they're seasonally dependent,
Yeah, true.
right? And I love a good simple backyard barbecue, low key group, not being overstimulated, 100%. And again, a good pool party in the summer, you can't beat it just in general. So, have plenty of memories of both. I probably have more simple backyard barbecue celebrations than any birthday, but I'm kind of questioning my number 3 arcade, but because I've actually never had an arcade birthday, but had an arcade celebration. It was not planned, but it was bridal shower after Steph's bridal shower, and we picked up all the gifts, and then we all went out in Philly. It was in Fishtown. There's like this arcade spot, and
That's a very Fishtown thing.
It was so fucking dope. It was awesome, and that was fun. But I would like to have an arcade birthday celebration at some point in my life. Maybe I think it's too late, but.
Maybe for 35.
I feel like I ranked this one too high. This probably should be 5. But hey, listen, I'm pro video games. The X-Men video game was the best. All right, I'm just putting Dave. I never had a Chuck E. Cheese or a Dave & Buster's, but I remember going to some Dave & Buster's birthday parties. I thought it was like, because I like honestly, one thing you guys know about Coach Marco is I love a good casino experience.
Oh, really?
I like casinoing. I like my.
I'm not a casino.
I like
guy.
my 3-card poker. I can do a little blackjack. I do like to gamble, but I haven't gambled in forever or been to a casino in forever. But I could enjoy it for sure. And I feel like Dave & Buster's, when I first experienced it, it was basically my first casino experience as a young lad. Like that addiction to like getting those tickets with those games and like. Bringing up your tickets and getting it was just the best. So yeah,
Chuck E. Cheese had great pizza.
I never experienced.
Well, my childhood brain says it was great pizza.
Kev, I think I'm pretty sure I can hit the 120s, but guys, we got Wynwood bowling lanes right down the road of Carlson MFP, so I highly recommend going to Wynwood. I celebrated my 30th birthday with a good old bowling activity at Wynwood Lanes, baby. Can't forget.
Look at that.
Can't forget.
You know what's got to be on here too? This is a childhood thing, but
Clowns.
I was going to say the moon bounce.
Oh, the moon bounce.
The moon bounce. I always had I had a lot of moon bounce. I always wanted a moon bounce. And then like the rental guy comes with it. I just like, I love that smell of a moon bounce. Like, it's like that dirty plastic kind of smell. And like, then there's always that one kid who
You
would
sound like such a fucking weirdo right now. It's the best.
breaking, like, there's always one kid who would go too hard, like doing flips and would like break an ankle or something. But I probably
That's
had
great.
at least 5 moon bounce birthdays in my childhood years. So I don't know if like you could still rent moon bounces. JT. But I think the moon bounce birthday was like, I would have thrown that on the list if I created this. I love moon bounce, man.
Dude. Well,
Now, like, as
that could
Hazel,
that's definitely a good honorable mention, to be honest. Because honestly, every time there's a birthday and there's a moon bounce, I try to get in one of those.
I know now, like as like the
It's the
kids,
best.
like
Yeah.
when Hazel and Jack are like
I
older
know.
and they're at moon bounce age, I don't want to jump in that.
I put in the honorable mention. That's definitely one. Like themes, but like I also don't think it should be ranked because like I don't know. Like Steph's like, for Jack's first birthday party, we should do a Jalen Hurts themed birthday for being one. I'm like, fuck that. That's stanky.
Nora has a theme already planned for Hazel.
We're gonna do like a seagull. It's just like an ocean theme. It seems to be is what we do for Jack. So, clowns. Anybody? Clowns?
I'm not a clown guy.
Victor, I know you had a clown for one of your birthdays. You're a clown guy. MacMart, come on. Cheesy. Are you guys gonna do cheesy themed birthday parties? Tale as old as time.
All this time, man. Or what's another? I'm trying to think of like.
Too scary.
You know what I loved? I loved like the low key birthdays. Too scary for Joe. Yeah, no, that is true.
Dude, well, wait till we get to our Halloween episode.
Wait, I got one more honorable mention. I don't celebrate.
Victor, we're gonna throw you a big freaking party at MFP. Victor.
One last honorable mention. I've done a few of these. The hibachi dinner birthday.
Oh yeah, no, hibachi is good.
The hibachi dinner, good for a group. Onion volcano. Moon bounce and hibachi.
Oh, welcome to our hibachi. Would you like me to crack the egg for you?
I love hibachi, man. You're never disappointed.
Love it. Love me a good hibachi. Welcome to MFB hibachi pre. All right. Well, hey, listen. We're don't worry. We'll get to the scary stuff for Joe in a few weeks. I heard all about the Joe scary debacles.
Yeah, I've been getting dogged on. It's unfair.
But listen, we'll do a Halloween episode where we rank top 5 Halloween scary movies.
I won't have any.
Oh, listen. 'Tis the season, my friend. 'Tis the season. All right, dude. Well, hey, listen. Happy birthday. Enjoy the weekend, man. In the Poconos. Thanks for hanging out for the crowd. You know, listen.
Happy birthday to you too, dude.
Dude, we got a new follower. 5 a.m. Squat Club. We got to figure out who this is.
5 a.m. Squat Club. Free trial today, man.
Dude, free trial. Victor, MacMart. We had a good chat day today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get Joe off. Okay. Appreciate you guys for tuning in.
Man. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, dude. All right. Peace. Enjoy your time. All righty.
JT's Chris, just subscribe.